I'm Abby. This is
Kevin?
this is baby Jesse. We just had him a little more than 3 weeks ago at Prentice, and we live here in Chicago in Old Irving Creek. This is our first child, and it took us a little bit, just like through the process of figuring out what we wanted. But I think we knew that we wanted to try to do a unmedicated natural birth, and so I think we always kind of like were considering getting a doula, but honestly, it was a little bit. There just felt like there's a lot of options out there, and so we actually started by looking and kind of for me, faith was important, so I was kind of looking at and seeing if there's any Christian doulas, and then I also found this Facebook page, and so we kind of started posting and seeing what was out there, and then Chicago Family Doulas came up as an option. So yeah, we reached out. We saw that there's a lot of different doulas, a lot of different options, and we would be able to get paired with one or matched with one. So that's kind of how our process started. I think it just kind of felt, I think we waited that long because it felt like there was just we didn't know where to start. But once we got started and got through the process and started talking to some doulas, we really felt like the doula we spoke with, a Chicago Family Doula, really understood us and clicked. So yeah, the process with Chicago Family Doulas was great. We reached out, and there was kind of email communication first, and then really smooth, really quick responses. And then we had a first kind of like a screen call where someone from the admin team reached out and kind of got a sense of what we were looking for, to get a sense of who we might match well with. And then after that, we got scheduled to do a short video call with a doula. We actually ended up having 2 interviews just to make sure we got to meet kind of different doulas and then find them the right fit for us. We really felt great with the doula we spoke with. So we matched, and then after that, we had things continue to go really smoothly. We got started kind of texting and email and text communication with that doula, but it was also just continued support from the full Chicago Family Doulas team and the admin team. We would get check-ins throughout the weeks, and we would get these kind of just summary sheets, a little bit like week 36, what can you expect? Week 38, leading up to birth, what can you expect? So those are really great check-ins, and we always felt really supported of was there anything, they would always be is there anything you need or anything we can help with? So that was really great. And then even leading up to birth and labor, our doula actually was finishing up another birth. And so we were able to contact Chicago Family Doulas, the admin team, and they made sure our care and support was just continuous. And so we were able to get paired with a backup doula for a few hours just to make sure if we had any questions. And then when our doula finished up her birth, she seamlessly kind of transitioned back to us and was there for our birth. So it was just really great to be with a full team, not just one doula, but a full team, and felt very supported by that. And then also throughout the process, and by going with Chicago Family Doulas, we were able to get the virtual classes. And that was really helpful for us in our 3rd trimester, as we were just watching different videos, learning about breastfeeding and what to expect in a Chicago hospital specifically. Those things were also really, really helpful for us.
As part of the birth doula package, we also got access to a bunch of virtual courses. I think there was bringing home baby, what to expect at a Chicago area hospital, breastfeeding 101, which not as useful for me, but really great for at least to understand what goes on the process. Yeah. And I think there was one other class, but just a ton of great resources for us as we were preparing, especially in the 3rd trimester, once we started to feel the pressure. Just really good to spend some time at home watching those videos together. And then nice thing was like each of these courses had a nice big packet of homework for us to do together, which was really good to do, honestly, to talk about things together as a couple and think about, like what are our expectations? What are the things that we think are going to be difficult? Just to get, aligned for when the baby was actually here. So, that was really great to have.
There was really great support via text. She was texting me, but she also created a group chat between me and Kevin, just so they were really a team together. And even from the beginning, it was just, I felt like it was a really good match, but she really took the time to understand us and understand what was important. I think a lot of what I was feeling even in that third trimester was like, oh man, this is coming up really fast. Am I prepared? What should I be doing right now? And so I think it was really great because she just kind of understood, like I loved information and being informed. And so not only was she texting, she also like created like a folder that she shared with us where she helped us like week by week, had some questions to ask our midwives they were meeting. And then also like week by week, things that we can be doing. So like, like meal prepping, and then just like kind of breaking it down for us, like when to start maybe taking longer walks or starting like leading dates or, just like different suggestions, which was really great. And then she came for a prenatal visit at our home, which was really great. We got to meet in person, and she brought a like really well made like packet from Chicago Family Doulas, and we walked through like what to expect. And one of the main things we spent a lot of time on was the like birth preference sheet, kind of the birth plan, which was really great for me, and then also I feel like to talk with Kevin too, just kind of like where are we at, what are we hoping for, what can we expect. It helped us really just like take the time to be intentional to think about it. But yeah, that was really great. And even like leading up to labor, we like pulled out that pamphlet, was like, okay, what can we do? There's just a lot of great suggestions and help there too. So yeah, and then throughout too, I would ask just like random questions like, do you have any suggestions for like somewhere to get a prenatal massage? And she would send those over, or a good suggestion for like physical therapy or how to prep and stuff like that. And she would respond like with a bunch of different suggestions, which is really helpful. And then she would also like, we had questions about too, like, just like different choices we can make and stuff like that. And she would send us like really informed kind of articles too, like evidence-based, like kind of pamphlets and stuff like that were really helpful for us to talk about and think through. And we just felt really supported with really solid information.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, especially knowing that we wanted to try and do this unmedicated. And, I think everybody likes to say that they want to do it unmedicated, and then maybe they change their mind. We were feeling maybe a little bit more firm on that, but as like the partner here, it was like, well, I guess simple, right? We just say no to every medical intervention, and that's it. And then it was really helpful having the birth preferences sheet, just to open my eyes to like, even if you think you don't want it, like, hey, here's the decision tree of options that you are probably going to have to make at some point, because it's not going to be as easy as you guys think it is to do it unmedicated. So that kind of like really helped me to like know what to anticipate. Like at this stage in the game, you may be prompted with this, and okay, when you're prompted with this, what do you want to say back to the medical staff? And those are like questions that we probably would not have considered if we didn't have the birth preference sheet and the help of a doula to guide us through. So that was really nice.
We had, I think, what was our 40-week appointment, and at that point we were checking in pretty frequently with our doula. So yeah, went to our appointment, took a nice long walk that day, and then that evening after dinner I started feeling some contractions. And honestly, it's the first time I was like, is this real? Is this going to stick? Was it because I was at an appointment earlier today? So yeah, at that point, we started texting our doula and just kind of keeping her in the loop. And after a little bit, started timing them. And yeah, so actually at this point, our doula was at a different birth. And so we ended up reaching out to the admin team. And then for that evening and kind of going into that night, we were matched or paired with another doula just to make sure that if we had any questions through the night that we were taken care of. We were given like suggestions too of like what might help just kind of in early labor. So yeah, kind of went into the night trying to rest a little bit, but honestly, the contractions were kind of just coming. And so, yeah, kind of got through the night, and then, in the morning was able to, connect back to our original doula. And then we kind of just checked in to see like how far the contractions were. We are a little bit further, we were kind of just thinking about the drive into Prentice, honestly, because of the traffic and rush hour and stuff like that. And she was super thoughtful about that, kind of thinking like, well, we do want to wait for your contractions to be closer together, especially if we want to go unmedicated. But at the same time, do you want to be in the car for an hour while you're like 3 minutes apart? So that was super helpful to just to like have that conversation. She ended up actually coming over to our house for us to kind of labor a little bit more at home and keep an eye on the traffic and stuff like that, which was really great. Because I had wanted to kind of try to labor as much at home anyways. But it was great to have her there. She helped with like different positionings. I was experiencing like a bunch of back labor too. And so she was helping me kind of go through different circuits. And then just making sure like we were kind of continuing to progress. Then we ended up kind of taking walks around the neighborhood. And then got to a point where it seemed like the contractions were really like they were sticking. And so we made the decision kind of together that we should start heading into the hospital. So we got to the hospital, went through triage. They said I was far enough along, and then got admitted. And then we got into our labor and delivery room. And kind of just continued laboring there. So, even actually through triage, as I was going through contraction, like doula was there, helping with like hip squeeze, double hip squeeze. She was even also like, honestly, like walking Kevin through,
giving me some tips.
Giving some tips of like where, what would help, because he was very involved too. But there was just something also I think with just the experience she had, where she kind of just like could tell where I was feeling the pain. And yeah, it was very, because honestly, even going into it, there was a little bit of hesitation of going with the doula, because I was like, this feels like a very intimate experience, and like, is it going to feel weird between me and my husband? But honestly, she was like so supportive, and it felt so natural too, where like she just kind of like was able to read the room really well. And just, you could tell that her experience of just like knowing like what might help. And then she also had a really great attitude of like not getting offended too if I was like, oh, that wasn't quite right or something like that. Honestly, there was not many that honestly didn't happen a lot, but she was just very open and very supportive. So yeah, she was like with us in triage and then going to labor and delivery. And just throughout there, she was always just kind of like one step ahead. Like she always kind of knew like what I might need. Like, did I need a heat pack? And she would offer, and I'd be like, that sounds like a great idea. Like, I didn't even know I wanted that, but that's great. And there were things that I even like knew kind of like, even for my own research, but I was like, I know I need to stay hydrated. I know I need to like use the bathroom every hour. And there was a point in labor where like, I definitely was not in a headspace where I could remember those things, but she, was like, I remember her being like, hey, here's some water, like take some water. And like, she was keeping track of all the stuff for me. So that was super, super helpful. But yeah, continued through change. Like she would suggest different position changes, like how to keep moving. And at one point we went into the shower, and I kind of figured this out at home too, but I mentioned, I was like, I think the shower really works like really great for me. I had tried the tub at my house, and honestly, that wasn't as great as the shower. And so our doula actually helped. Like, this is one of the most meaningful things as part of our labor. And in a story, she had kind of set up the shower into like this kind of like sanctuary, kind of like this spa-like area where she brought like tea light candles while the lights were turned off. She brought in like a birth ball that I could sit in, and like was just like super thoughtful, like made sure the water was warm by the time I got in there. And then suggested, hey, was just like, hey, I know that like from experience in other couples, like this could be a really special time for you and your husband. So we like brought in our speaker and played some music in there, and labored in there for like quite a while. And it was a super just such a meaningful time for us to labor together and connect. And I'm sure Kevin will speak to it too. But yeah, it was just something that was like, we would not have thought of that. And it's just such a, yeah, like labor was intense, but that like just that memory of being like, wow, we really were able to connect during that time. That is just like one of the highlights of that day. So yeah, we did that. And then, yeah, just even as like labor got more intense, she was just always kind of right there, super encouraging. I remember her just like, yeah, just always being like, you know how to do this, like you can get through this. And there was no like, it was like really thoughtful. Like it wasn't like empty promises, like, you know, it was just like very, like I knew that she knew like kind of like what I was going through. And yeah, I just like, it was very, very encouraging. Like, you know, your body knows how to do this. You know how to get through this. You can get through this next contraction. So that was extremely helpful. And then even just kind of like one other thing that comes to mind is she was just like really helpful for me to like feel a lot more reassured. Like I knew that I wanted to like make sure I was well informed and I was able to like ask questions. But it was just great to kind of like, I remember like looking to her and being like, is this everything? Like, is there anything else I should consider? And she was super helpful there too, just like super reassuring, and would add in some questions or kind of just like reassure me like, yes, like based on what we talked about, I think this is aligned with what like would be a good decision for you right now. Cause like towards the end, we did do like a few interventions. Yeah. And it felt a lot less scary to make those decisions having like our doula there with us. So
yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that I want to highlight is a lot of the things that, like she mentioned, the shower, which I'll kind of go into my my experience of it. Like you watch YouTube videos on your own and you see like people recommend, oh, like you could do this, you could bring in some candles and play some music. I'll just say like you can research all you want on your own, but once you get there in the hospital, like especially if it's your first time, you're going to be like I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I'm like a weirdo for wanting to bring candles in the shower, and or if I'm like it's appropriate to keep asking for more hot and cold packs, or am I drinking too much water? So it's really nice having a doula there with you, because they've had the experience. They know like they can if you feel uncomfortable asking for things, they can do it for you. But even just like her, Abby mentioned like her anticipating things and being like one step ahead, just always like thinking about what's like, while we're kind of heads down focused on, I'm doing the hip squeezes with her help of, helping me find the right hand position. But we're kind of doing our things, trying to get through the contractions, and she is able to then prepare for what's next, right? Like while we're there on the bed, she's like in the shower, turning on the water, getting it hot, getting new towels in there and all that stuff. And like honestly, like she mentioned, laboring in the shower was one of it, like that's one of the things I'm going to be remembering for the rest of my life. It was just a really special moment that like when you read about it or like do your research on, like, they're like, oh yeah, this could be nice. And I didn't anticipate it being such like a meaningful moment for just us to kind of connect and like, get just in the same headspace with expecting our baby. Yeah. And like, if, like knowing that like that old moment only happened because of, we had a doula to kind of advocate and anticipate that might be something that we wanted. I'm just like, everyone should get the chance to experience this. And if they don't know what they're missing out on. One of the things you didn't mention is we actually labored for 30 hours.
Oh yeah, it was a long.
So yeah, like when we did a good portion of that at home overnight. And so we were already kind of sleep deprived by the time our doula had come to our house in the morning. And when we got to the hospital, like she mentioned, they were like at triage, they're like, you're ready to go up. You're already at 7 centimeters. So we were like, nice, that's great news. We're not going to be here for too long. We're going to see our baby and just a couple hours here. We'll be home before dinner. And then, a good thing we had a birth preferences sheet made out with all the things that you will need to consider if things don't go according to plan. So, yeah, it didn't actually happen as quickly as we thought it would. Stalled out a couple times throughout the process. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like if we didn't have our doula there, we probably would have been like extremely, extremely overwhelmed. Not that we weren't overwhelmed, but like we were able to get through it, right? And at every step of the way, like both her and I felt like we were fully informed of kind of all of the potential options, all of the implications of every option, and felt just reassured at every decision that we made. There was actually a point where, she stalled out at 9.5 centimeters for, unfortunately, like almost like 2 hours. And, it was like, the medical staff was getting to the point of like, hey, we, probably want to suggest an epidural because nothing else is working. And our minds were like, really? Like at 9.5 centimeters? And, but if it was like without the doula there, and honestly, at that point, we were like, kind of like, man, we've tried everything. It's been so long. Like, what can we do? And it was really helpful having our doula there, being like, hey, like, as someone who's like been through a lot of births before, even though they're saying this, I don't think that's something that like, like, I think there are other options. And she kind of helped both of us kind of weigh the pros and the cons and the risks. We, ended up making the decision like to actually just, be a little bit more firm with the medical team, be like, hey, like, can we just try to start pushing instead of this? Cause that's something we don't really want to do. And, with her help, we were able to get the medical team on board and try an alternative method. And fortunately, like that worked. She started pushing and we,
the 10.
Yeah, we got the 10. Yeah. And then boom, all of a sudden an hour later, there he was. So, yeah, just really incredible. Throughout the whole time, like, like one of the things I wanted to be mindful of, even, early on in the process was like, how involved is the doula going to be? And is that going to kind of, what's the word? Like kind of overshadow like my involvement in the process. And just like, I asked the question to her in our kind of, consults beforehand. But I just like realized like, that's not even something I need to worry about. Cause throughout the process, she was kind of proactive with me and like, where she could see me struggling or like I didn't know what I was doing, she would just kind of give me some tips, like, without making me feel like offended or ill prepared. She did it really delicately in a way that I felt like she was just a part of the team. And she knew exactly when to step in and like, give me a break and when to let me take the reins and step in and be a partner. So, yeah, it's just like, honestly, I was a little skeptical of doulas at first. I'm like, like everyone has kids without doulas, but now I'm like, I think everybody should get a doula because it's just your birth experience is completely different. I think like there's just so many things so many special moments that we would not have had if we didn't have a doula helping us out.
Once baby was here, doula stayed with us for probably a little over an hour. It was pretty late. It was like midnight or 1 at that point. But she stuck around. even like helped us kind of like document a little bit and like take a few pictures for us. So that was really special to capture those moments. And then was there, just helping us transition like in those first few moments, which was really, really special. And then am I missing anything with that?
Well, I'll just say, like, if you don't have a doula, there's nobody taking pictures of you, the two of you, while that pushing is happening. And I didn't, I was so kind of zoned in on like helping her breathe through it.
Yeah.
With the mirror, kind of seeing my baby like literally come out, the whole thing. My hands are full, and like I didn't even know our doula was around the room, just like taking pictures of us during that moment. And then, after she had left and we were kind of in postpartum, she texted us over just a string of pictures, and that was so special to look at and have. Like that was like a nice little cherry on top, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our doula also came over after we had been out of the hospital, I think like 1 or 2 weeks. Yeah. For like a postpartum visit. And it was really nice. She came over with this little gift basket with freshly baked sourdough loaf, this little onesie actually that says "My doula loves me," which is super cute. Just some other goodies. And it was just a time for us to kind of like debrief on the whole birth experience, which honestly was actually kind of nice to do. I feel like there was... we had obviously talked about it between ourselves, but it was nice to kind of hear, like, from her perspective too, like, like how things went. And just, it was just really good, like, to both do that. And also I think she checked in on you and you had some other questions for her, and she just kind of walked us through like things to then, to expect now that we were kind of on the other side of it. I think he had been experiencing his first bout of diaper rash, and she gave us some tips on how to get through that. We're still in touch with her. Like, we've got a group text going, and like any questions that we have, we definitely feel like more than comfortable to shoot them her way.
Even leading up to it, she would check in every like few days postpartum, and so it was really sweet. And yeah, as Kevin was saying, like being able to like talk through and process the labor kind of with somebody who was there the whole time too, was really special and really meaningful to me, because I think, every labor is unique and is probably intense in some, way, shape, or form. But it was really honestly helpful for me to even just like talk through it and hear like kind of her perspective of things too, and remembering things that maybe I was like zoned out for. She's like, "Oh yeah, you did that, that was really cool." Or I think she had even mentioned, she was like, "Yeah, you were like, even in like the midst of like really like transition and active labor, like you were still very thoughtful about your questions you were asking people." And I was like, wow, like it was just very encouraging to hear those things. Having a doula with us was just like foundational, fundamental, whatever word you want to choose, kind of there. I think it really helped achieve like my hopes and my desires and goals. Going in, I felt pretty strongly about wanting to do an unmedicated birth, just seeing kind of like my mom, like hearing stories of my mom doing unmedicated. And there were just several reasons that, that really motivated me in that way. And I think having a doula there was like the reason why I was able to do that. But even beyond that, like reflecting back, it was such a good, supported experience. Like I felt reassured, I felt supported. And I think that's huge, because like even if I achieved my goal and maybe and it was like, if you take away the support, you take away the reassurance or the security you feel from somebody, like, or that experience, I feel like it would be a very different experience. Like I could have been like, oh, I did it. But I can really say like, wow, we did it. And it was a really good experience. Like, and I feel, I'm really thankful that we were able to find this doula and work with Chicago Family Doulas.
It just allowed us to kind of shift our attention and our focus during the birth away from having to kind of juggle all of like the medical questions and the anxiety of like, am I doing this the right way? Am I advocating for myself properly? Am I properly informed about the way that I want to do it? Is what I think I want to do safe? Just a lot of questions. And like, especially when you're going through like the heat of the contractions and stuff, and you just have limited capacity to think about those things. I can imagine like not having the doula, like, and especially in the rear view mirror, like we would have just been completely overwhelmed thinking about all those things I just mentioned. And that would have just taken away from our ability to kind of focus and enjoy and be an expectation for like the coming into the world of our, child and this new human being, right? Which is, I think, obviously, like besides my marriage, like the second most important in my moment in my life. And so like, I think like being able to properly appreciate that and be present in the moment for something like that is like, you can't put a price on that. And so like, I'm just so glad that we decided to like enlist the help of a doula, because like that now this moment in time is like, there's so many like rich moments that I can look back on and reflect on, and like they don't have to be colored with like, oh, like, yeah, we were, and just worried about this and this. I've heard stories from my friends, like they were just kind of like maybe on the sidelines, like they didn't know what to do, or they were as husbands kind of overwhelmed, and their involvement was like so much less limited. Not to say that the moment isn't special, but it's like knowing like our story and what I got to experience. I'm like, man, if you just had another person in there kind of helping you out, man, just like, you don't know what you're missing out on. So, yeah, just super special and would recommend to anyone.